everyone. I am super excited to welcome each and every one of you today at GMAT Club's session. And I am Gunjan Jhunjhunwala. I am a senior MBA admissions consultant at the Red Pen. And today we have on our panel three successful applicants who are going to LBS and INSEAD. And this session is not about talking about admissions in theory. We are actually exploring what worked, and we'll be covering a lot of different sections, right from what is the right time to pursue an MBA to test preparation, school selection, and everything in between. So if you have any questions, and the style is extremely conversational, so if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments box, and we will try and address as many questions as possible towards the end. Thank you so much, Amol, Rishi, and Arshia, for doing this with us today. Amol, if you could, I would like to go with you first. If you could please introduce yourself, your background, years of experience, the companies you've worked for, and please take the leap forward from there, Arshia and Rishi then.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Amol Rane. I am from Mumbai University. It's an engineering college called Thadumal Shani Engineering College. I graduated in 2020 and I've been working with Deloitte India in the strategy consulting, implementation strategy consulting part. And I'll be joining LBS in the August of 2026. And
Great, thank you so much. Arshia, if you could go next, please.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Arshia. I'm currently based in Gurgaon. And after having 4 years of work experience across human capital consulting as well as leadership advisory, I am heading for my MBA, also at London Business School, starting in August 2026. I've studied international relations and psychology at my undergraduation at Haverford College in the US. It's a small liberal arts based out of Pennsylvania. And after graduation, I worked in Wipro in New York City, primarily in HR strategy. And thereafter, for 3 years, I spent time across Egon Zehnder. Egon Zehnder is a global leadership advisory and executive search firm, and worked a lot across like boards and CEO leadership and CEO succession, etc. And looking forward to joining LBS soon thereafter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arshia. Rishi, if you could now go next, please.
Yeah. Hi, so I'm Rishi. I'm from Jaipur. I started my career with my CA, and I was pursuing my undergrad from INSEAD College, University of Delhi. I did my articleship for CA with a Big Four firm, KPMG. And then after my CA, I joined my father's CA practice back in Jaipur. And post that, I joined BCG as a consultant. And for past 4 years, I've been working with them in various sectors like industrial goods, financial sector, and also in infrastructure sector. So yeah, with BCG, I thought of applying for my MBA, and then I'm joining INSEAD in January 27.
Great, thank you so much. So we have a very, very diverse panel today, not only in terms of their education, but also in terms of the profession. Everybody is doing something different, and I'm looking forward to a very insightful conversation. My first question is to all of you. Why do you think you guys decided to do the MBA now rather than wait for another 2 to 3 years, especially given the global situation right now? So anybody, please start off.
Yeah, so maybe I'll start off. So for me, now seems the right time because I've been working with Deloitte for the past 5.5 years, and I've been in digital transformation, and right now it's more leaning towards AI because that's where everything is going. And I've seen a lot of projects, and from the inception, which is the pre-sales part, which is building proposals, then getting a project, then implementing it. First, of course, designing it, implementing it, and then building an entire practice around it. So with all that, I felt like it was a good time to get a transition into something that's a bit more up in the value chain as to why are these projects being done in the first place, right? Why is someone from, let's say, Sony Pictures coming to Deloitte for their distribution management transformation? So that is the side of things which I personally wanted to get into, and I felt like I was in the right place right now, especially now that I have seen majority of these things through different projects, and that was majorly why I felt like I should just go for it now and see how it pans out.
Yeah. How about you, Rishi?
Yeah, so for me, Gunjan, it was pretty simple. So while at BCG, I was surrounded with people who are into consulting and who are pursuing to like the future leaders in the consulting space itself. Back at home, I have people who are into their family businesses. And for me, I needed a cohort, I needed a group of people who would be like building their own startups or something from scratch. So to get that company, I think MBA was an ideal launchpad where I can get into that community and I can have those discussions and basically surround myself with people who are building something uh, afresh from scratch. So that's why I thought that after consulting, I would get into an MBA and then soon get into that path of building my own startup. So that was the pretty basic reason for me.
Right. And Arshia, what was your motivation?
Sure. So I think for me, just in the role that I was, 4 years felt like a pretty good inflection point. I mean, in the field that I was, 4 years felt like enough professional experience to know what I enjoy doing, where what I was good at, and where the gaps were. And yeah, I think it was just enough time to know that these are the skills I need to build on. And there was also some great advice that I'd received from pretty much my managers that I work with. Mostly around there's never a good time to pursue an MBA or to step away from the professional career to step away to not be getting the check to check, like not be getting the monthly salary and everything, but there'll always be an economic uncertainty. There are always going to be some or the other geopolitical switches or something or the other, but or of course AI advances and everything that comes with it. So I think, yeah, more than waiting for the right time, it was more just like personally, this felt like a good time to step away for a little bit, take a year or two to just reinvest in some skills and all of that. And then, of course, come back to the workforce. So, yeah, 4 years felt like a great time. Of course, for each person, that's different. And yeah, you just need to know when's a good time, right? So for me, this felt like it.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point because these uncertainties are always going to be around, and we have to be very cognizant of the fact that when you're going for an MBA, you're actually investing in yourself, right? In terms of the network, in terms of skills, in terms of everything, and all the investment is on you. And whenever the investment is on you, it can never be a bad investment, right? Because it's going to reflect in your professional life, in your personal life, in across different arenas of your life. So and going with that sort of a average work experience, 3 to 4 years is what we also recommend our clients, because it's not only that you're meeting the minimum criteria of 2 years by most schools, but more importantly, when you have that level of experience, you would be able to not only contribute a lot to the classroom, but also take away a lot, because you would be able, whatever you'll be taught in terms of projects, in terms of case studies, you'll be able to relate to it far better than somebody who's just fresh out of college or who have very low work experience. So great insights there. Now let's move to test prep, one of the most important aspects, I would say, and like a tough one for working professionals, because you've been out of studies for a very long time and then going back to studies and then trying to crack a competitive exam. I'm sure it's not easy with all the commitments at work as well. So, Rishi, I would like to first hear it from you. One test prep strategy that made the biggest difference in your preparation.
So, Gunjan, before starting the preparation, I took the GMAT exam myself, and I realized very early on only that there are two parts to this GMAT preparation. One is of course, the content and the concepts part of it, and the second, but the more important part of it was the test taking temperament. So concepts and everything, I think most of the people can go through them, and like that's the solvable part. But what you need to really stress on and build is the test taking temperament, that you're able to go on solving difficult questions one after another without making any mistakes. Sometimes you would do like the difficult questions within a timeline, but then you would make mistakes on the easier questions. So that building the temperament, the actual time, as in not going like too quickly or too slowly on a question. That temperament is something that GMAT tests a lot, and that temperament, if you develop, then you can absolutely score really well on the GMAT.
Right. And what about you, Amol? What was that one thing that you felt really made a difference in your preparation?
Yeah, so for me, I choose the GRE over GMAT, and it was more of a personal preference because I was more comfortable with that exam. So during my undergrad, I was already, semi preparing for it just to see how it is because everyone was doing it. So it was just more comfortable for me. But for me, the biggest factor was, laying down the fundamentals, actually going step by step. So first, if you don't have your fundamentals straight, you cannot just solve questions and just solve a lot of papers and hope to be the best at it. So you have to build your fundamentals. Then you have to focus more on your strategy, question solving strategy. Then it's more of your time, managing the time because GRE is quite, you have to be very cognizant of where you're spending your time. And then of course the essays part, which is I would say the easiest bit because you have a template which you can follow. So for me, following that process was one thing which led me to a better score than what I started out with.
Right. And Arshia, if you could give us some insights on your test prep strategy.
Sure. So I actually started with the GMAT. I think pretty much all applicants applying to B school usually think GMAT is what they're supposed to take. I would highly recommend, for the most part, if you can take a diagnostic in both formats, GMAT as well as GRE, please go for that. GRE made a big difference for me. It was just what played better to my strengths. And this was actually something I took midway working with the Red Pen. Halfway through, I realized GMAT was just not playing to my strengths, and I could really, amplify something else, which is why GRE was a better fit. You also very often, as an applicant, as a student who's putting in so much effort, working a full-time job, you feel like the whole sunk cost fallacy. Like, you've already put in so much effort in one practice, in one test. Why not just go with it?
Yeah.
Um, at the end of it, you just need to know what works better for you. I mean, the skills are pretty transferable. There's no right or wrong. It just basically, at the end of it, how you can best apply yourself on that exam day. GRE made a big difference for me. And yeah, I mean, at the end, I would just recommend, please take both diagnostics. You never know what works best for you, what, highlights your strengths. And that's what you need to show the outcome, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, so those are some great insights. Like from Rishi, I think one of the key factors that came out was it's not just the technical game; it's also a mindset game. So be in the right temperament and know how to control your temperament. Amol spoke about how important it is to follow the process, right? And Ashia, you brought in some great talking points there on it's all right, even if you've taken the GMAT and half midway you actually switch to GRE and then perform better there. So know your fit and be open to experimenting on the test as well. So we'll move now to the next section, which is Rishi, I wanted to understand that besides a strong GMAT score, what else do you think strengthened your overall application? Rishi, you're on mute. If you could please unmute yourself.
Hi, am I
Yeah.
audible? Yeah.
Yes.
So I think apart from the GMAT score, all the four parts to your application, that is your academic qualification, your professional experience, and everything, and your extracurriculars, everything plays out equally well. So for me, the academic background, being a chartered accountant, and then moving to BCG and solving the business side of it, of the things, was really helpful for me. And that's something that I really amplified on my applications with the Red Pen's help. And yeah, that really played out for me.
Right. And Asha, how about you? What do you think really worked besides the score?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things that really strengthens your application is just having an internal clarity of, like, I think clarity and consistency of, like, how you want to project yourself as an applicant. I don't think it traditionally needs to be like, you have a traditional MBA background, For example, for me, like, I mean, in my undergrad, I studied psychology and international relations. Thereafter, I worked in people strategy. So I think it's far from like, um, sometimes what you expect a traditional MBA background to be. And of course, that played to my worries about, my professional history not being too conventional. But I think through the process, and of course, Red Pen played a big role in this. Um, I realized it's not like you need to fit the traditional mold. Instead, you need to find a way to like connect the dots. I think that plays a very big role. Like just basically, how your undergrad has played towards your professional history and how you expect that professional history to connect to your MBA and then post MBA goals. So I think just having that narrative becomes very important for the most part. And of course, what you do in the middle plays a big part, but just overall having that confidence and that narrative set, I think that'll help you for the most part, right? I mean, it'll give you the talking points for interviews. um, to begin with, it'll give you the talking points for essays, it'll give you the initial bit for interviews, and thereafter, of course, the rest is to follow. But I would say that's a big part. And yeah, pretty much.
Great. Amol, let's hear it from you.
Yeah, actually, as Arshia was explaining her side, I'm actually the opposite. I'm from a very conventional background, engineer from Deloitte, but but the process is actually quite similar because the problem here is you need to still distinguish yourself from other engineers from other big fours or other IT companies. So the result is that you do need to focus on how you can create a more story that just you or that shows yourself and not something that fits a mold, because there is no mold. You are your own mold, right? You mold yourself. So that's what you are supposed to focus on, and that needs a lot of introspection. And honestly, the process which was followed during Red Pen, from that storyboarding to star stories, personally it helped me a lot. And then of course having someone guide you through that, because you do make a lot of mistakes. For me, it was I was very much focused on the details. I'm very detail oriented in general. So I used to just go into technical depths and all that. So you need someone to, just take a step back to help you look at the bigger picture. So for me, it was actually just, having that introspection, finding what actually fits, being consistent with your story, very true, with what your previous experiences and what you want to do in the future, and who you are as a person. So these every part of these different aspects need to combine into one to fit your story.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so interesting, right? We have Arshia, who is worried about the about her background being very non-traditional, and we have Amol on the other hand, who's worried about his background being very traditional. And Amol, you just gave us like a killer one-liner, which is you are your own mold, right? So when you recognize that via storytelling, via a lot of journaling and writing, is when you are able to hit the bullseye and make a difference. And the only differentiation is actually you. So great insights there. And for anybody who's actually worried that I come from a humanities background and I don't think I stand a chance, we have Arshia here live talking about her experiences and how it's very much possible if you know the direction, if you're clear in the process and you understand where you're headed and why you're doing what you're doing. So we will not now talk about school selection. And I wanted to hear from Amol first. What was your strategy for school selection? What were you really looking at? What kind of research did you do before finally zeroing that these are the schools that I actually want to attend?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I was initially focused a lot on the test prep side of things, because with work, I was finding it very difficult to manage a lot of things. So I started a bit late in the school selection side of things, or the research part. So I had only a few options. I didn't want to wait till the third round. I wanted to apply in whatever universities I could in the second round at the very least, or in universities that have rolling admissions. So for me, the research, I had two options. One is either I research few, or either I research very well and apply to a few universities, or I just haphazardly just find the rankings and then apply to a lot. So I chose the former because uh, for me, it was to even build a story. You need to be convinced yourself that this is the school you need to go to, and that's what. So while I did a lot of research, but I zeroed in on a few institutes. So I applied to ESA, LBS, and ISB only these
Mm-hmm.
three universities, and two of them were in Europe. And the reason was like I liked these schools for different reasons. I liked ESA because of the community, ESA and LBS, both of them because of the community. They're extremely helpful, and I would want to be in that community. Then the from a long-term goal standpoint, so London is something which I see has a lot of potential for me to get into my preferred industry, and I do wish to come back to India as well. LBS holds a lot of weightage even in India. If you want to come back, there's a lot of alumnus there, so that played a role into my selection. And for ESA, especially the learning there, it's more based on case framework. So that really interested me, and not a lot of European institutes I felt were leaning towards that. Hence, so these were different reasons why I chose to apply to these institutes. And of course, a lot of research. You need to talk to a lot of people. So, and that's when you can zero in on these things, and you need to be convinced yourself.
So, Amol, I know that you were waitlisted at LBS, and I think it will
Right.
really benefit the audience to know what kind of updates did you submit and how did you keep yourself together through the process, because it can be really tiring, right? I mean, firstly,
Mm-hmm.
the waitlist is something which just keeps you in the game, and at the same time, you have to keep pushing yourself even more. So, if you could just let us know what kind of updates you provided.
Yeah, definitely. So, being in a waitlist is like being in a limbo, right? You're neither here nor there. And especially for me, that was the only choice I had. So it was either an MBA in 2026 or no MBA. So for me, it
Yeah,
was even a bigger limbo.
yeah,
So, and you will be very tempted to, write multiple updates, or just draft many things and send those updates. But that's something that one should definitely not do. Those updates should be meaningful and something that adds to your profile, but not in a way that you are writing an essay. They are already convinced that's why you are there after an interview. You just need to provide what you have been doing to reach to an MBA level, or something that's more meaningful to your profile, and also showing interest. Like the university needs to know that you're interested in them, right? Otherwise, why would they spend so much time reviewing your profile? So there's these three reasons. So for me, I only sent two updates over a span of 2.5 months.
okay,
But I also spaced it out by connecting with the admissions committee, and that also gives an indicator of how much interested the university is in you. So, spacing these three things out and showing meaningful updates. So I got a promotion. So that was a big thing. I won a few client awards and internal awards. So, but just mentioning them does not do. So, just tying them, how it leads to you wanting to do an MBA more, maybe, but not in an essay way, just to draft that letter, so to speak.
right.
So that's more or less what I did and focused on.
Right. Arshia, you had interview invites from LBS, INSEAD, and Cambridge, right? Even the final offers were there from there. So, if you could throw some insights as to why did you choose LBS over these other schools?
Sure. So I think, yeah, to begin with, I mean, I'd applied to two, three other schools in the US as well, Kellogg and Booth, pretty much. But I knew, I mean, Europe was going to be a priority, having already studied and worked in the US. Uh, MBA was just a way that I was also seeing to give me just exposure to, a different business environment and just the different global perspectives and everything. So Europe was very well aligned with like my long-term goals. LBS and NCR consistently came as like my priority schools.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was fortunate to receive the LBS round one invite, NCR I did round two, Cambridge also I did round two, received from these ones. What really stood out to me for LBS was just like, I think the location was just so prime. I could see myself
Yeah.
settle in London for a slightly longer time frame. It was better aligned with my personal and professional goals. Uh, also, given my background in leadership advisory, I wanted to be, in one of the business hubs, access to consulting firms, MNCs, just, the professional ecosystem that a city like London provides. I also very much at the stage of my career preferred a flexibility of like a 2-year program. LBS, I mean, the program that I've opted for seems to be a 21-month program. You can obviously you have exit points at 15 months, 18 months, 21 months. For the most part, the class ends up exiting at 21 months. I at this stage just felt like it just gives me more time to, professionally explore what I want to do. Um,
Hmm.
have more time for recruitment, to build that network, and everything else that I need to, not just like transfer my network to London, but also expand in that sector and everything, right? So, for those reasons, I think LBS at the stage slightly upped the other schools for me. But again, this all comes down to, I mean, very honestly, a lot of us who are applying as international students on an Indian passport, you're also looking for recruitment and just employment opportunities abroad. Very honestly, you have to be pragmatic about obviously what makes the most sense to you.
Mhm.
For me, it seemed like I might have more opportunities in London. For someone else, if that's another geography, that's of course what works best. So yeah, I would say this is a very personal choice. I mean, at that point, every university that you pick is just like, you just need to know that of course ranking matter, but also just the culture of the university, the fitment, like the professional experience that you bring in, and how you plan to exit and everything, that obviously plays a great role. So a lot of it just comes down to fitment, I would say. But for me, that was the decision making. Yeah.
Right. And it's very
Yeah.
interesting that we have Rishi, who has admits both from LBS and INSEAD, and he's gone for INSEAD. So, Rishi, we'd love to hear why INSEAD over LBS.
Yeah, Gunjan. So first of all, it was a very confusing decision. For 1 month
I'm sure.
straight, even after getting admits from both the schools, I got admits one day after another. Like on first, I received admits from LBS. On second, I received it from INSEAD, and it was a very confusing 1 month that I spent. I also honestly did some my consulting into it. I put it into it and prepared a scoring model, and like that didn't help me at all because my scores were 8.99 versus 8.98. So that cannot give you any answer. But the answer lied in the archetype, as in when I imagined my life in both the schools, uh, and like what I would be doing and where I want to go. So that gave me the answer. So with London, uh, your target, so you will enjoy a lot of your life for 2 years. You will meet good people. You can intentionally learn what you want to do, and you're free to choose your path basically. At NCR, it's quite fast. You need to come there with what you want to actually do, and then
Yeah.
put yourself into that for the full time. But with me, it was also like NCR was going to start 6 months later in January, and LBS was starting immediately. So I thought, let's have some time, figure it out right now before going for the B school. And I chose INSEAD for the options it gave me. So INSEAD has a good network in across the globe, across Singapore. So Southeast Asia is covered, Middle East is very well covered by INSEAD, and also Europe. So
Mhm.
I would have liked to have that optionality. And if I ultimately want to come back to India, build my own business, build a global business basically, I would need network at all these countries. So I think that's why INSEAD worked for me. Another important factor was cost, honestly. INSEAD costed a little lesser than LBS. And
Mhm.
yeah, I thought if I would be spending that much money, then I don't want to be creating pressure on myself for employment or something. And if I can return back without that pressure, then I think that would be a great thing to do. So that's why I chose INSEAD.
Right. Very interesting perspectives, honestly, and like you said, right, Rishi. It also depends on your goals, where you see yourself, which city do you think your goals align with, and also the kind of college resources that are available within that ecosystem. Also, another important factor is definitely the financial aspect of it. And Arshia, for you, flexibility was important, London was important, so that made sense. And for Rishi, you had different goal priorities, and so INSEAD over LBS. Let's move to the essays. Essays, a very interesting word which keeps coming up is authentic, right? Authentic essays. And sometimes I put myself in the shoes of the applicant, and I like, they must be hating us for saying this word over and over again. But Sorry, we have to. So let's hear it from Rishi. How did you be authentic in your essays? Where did you think you brought in the authentic element?
Yeah, so very honestly, Gunjan, initially I faced a lot of difficulty in getting that authenticity into my essays. I always wanted to sound impressive, and that's when my
Thank
written
you for being so
consultant,
honest.
and that's when my consultant just used to give me back my essays that like what did this lead to? Why did you do this and everything? Why is this relevant? So, like introspecting deep down and knowing why you did what you did actually, what was your motivating factor behind it, actually getting to know that first, be authentic to yourself, as in know what were your motivating factors or deciding factors for doing something, and then once you know it, then you're able to write it well as well. So I think that's how I cracked the game for authenticity, and yeah, that's what I would advise to others as well.
And since we are on the topic of essays, how did you connect sustainability ambitions with your consulting and entrepreneurial experiences, Rishi? If you could just throw some light on your goals as well.
Yeah. So, Gunjan, I didn't try to differentiate them at all. My entrepreneurship experience was also into uh, like solar energy. And then with BCG as well, I was genuinely interested in this space. So, in BCG, what happens is you get to choose the projects you work on. So, I especially chose the projects around green energy, around forests and everything. And most of my work experience has been around this space. So it was very naturally connected, and I kept it that way. I spoke what I was genuinely passionate about, and yeah, that's how it unfolded pretty well, basically.
Right. So, Amol, if you could let us know, A, how were you authentic? And B, given that you had a highly technical AI transformation work, so how did you ensure readability when it came to your goals essay?
Yeah, sure. So, the differentiation or authenticity part is exactly the showing yourself who you are, right? And like I said before, you need to know yourself before you put it down on paper. And I also struggled similarly. So for me, the struggle was, being very technically detailed, which ties into the second question a bit. But and also, trying to sound, oh, I solved a big problem, but nobody
Hmm.
understands that, right? So these are very specific things which I think many applicants, especially from a technical background, would suffer. But it's more about just putting a story that's true to you and introspection. I think it's all boils down to that, and then it builds on top of that. How you write, what you write, and also it's a bit fundamental or rudimentary, but understanding what the question is, what the essay is trying to ask. You might introspect and you might know a lot of things, but if you're not saying what the essay is asking, is a major flaw, right? So I took some time to actually understand what are they asking, not just what the question is, but what are they trying to ask and what are they expecting of me. So those are the main reasons, or rather main points which I considered while writing that essay. And about the second part, how to not sound technical, or rather, yeah, like not be very specific about the things. It took some time, and that's where
Yeah.
the process part comes in, right? Because you need to understand the bigger picture of what you are doing and why you are doing, and that actually helped me even get a more clarity towards why I want to do an MBA. Going through that process, or the storyboarding and discussions with you especially. So you don't need to write what exactly you did, but what impact it had, and what impact you made, and tie in into your goals. So for LBS, it was a bit easier because it did ask about that very thing. How does your past experience link to your short-term or long-term goals? Something along those lines. And the application form allowed me to put a lot of things about myself in different questions. So about your academic history. So for that, I mentioned, or I was able to show how I learn in that specific essay. Somehow I was able to portray that, like I had a progression in my GPA, and through that, that was because how I started to learn how to learn, and I was able to tie in a lot of things in my essays as well, like even my professional essays or my personal essays or the optional essays. So having that sort of a bigger picture and how it fits into the your goals and how you are as a person, that overall made it a bit less jargony because I didn't focus more on what I did.
Right. And Arshia, how do you think your essays sounded like? What did you do to do the introspection? And I know that when Amol was talking, you really nodded when he spoke about introspection. So could you give some insights on how did you introspect and how did that help you write better essays?
Sure. So I think, yeah, like just the phrase of being authentic is probably one of the most overused ones for also
Yes.
consulting agencies as well as like just universities in general. It's really hard as students to put it into practice. As applicants who are working a full-time job, you just don't have that time of day to really sit and reflect. I think that's the process that I really struggled with the most, more than the writing, just like really taking a step back and thinking what I'm writing about. Because very honestly, there were drafts that I was like, oh, I'm at word limit. I think I've done a great job. And then the consultants that I was working with were like, oh, we still don't really know who you are. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I think I'm being clear enough. This is who I am. This is what I worked on. This is who I want to be. But they're like, okay, but we're not seeing that voice come across. And I think as a student, as an applicant, that can be very like, that can definitely set you back, right? You feel a little like, okay, this set you back in the process. You feel a little defeated. But I think big picture, you have to focus on the fact that yeah, no one is like targeting you, no one is trying to hold you back. It's just more about like when a third person at an MBA, adcom is reading this, they're just not seeing who you really authentically are. And I think for me, for the longest, I really thought like my liberal arts background was more like a weakness. It was not connecting to um, yeah, just really what I want to do long term or my MBA. But I guess the reflection that I ended up doing was what actually helped me bridge the gap, right? Like why my path post my undergrad, like working in people and organization transformation, people analytics, why that actually served as a bridge to my long term goal. Um, and yeah, I think it's that reflection where yeah, it's hard to sit with your thoughts. It's hard to pen down sentences here and there which don't frame like a story. But I think long term, yeah, that definitely really helps you. And while it's a grueling process, I think you just don't you just need to not take feedback personally. At the end of the day, it's of course someone, you need to understand that someone's reading your application is a person who does not know you, and they just need to understand you through your writing and how you phrased your experiences and everything. So I think yeah, a very big part of it has been just clearing your mind, clearing your headspace, and trying to think about what's made you take some of your professional calls, educational calls, why you ended up in the job that you did, why you took some difficult, business decisions, whether it's your own business or you're working in a firm, consulting firm, whatever. I mean, yeah, just really reflecting on those. I think that makes a big difference. And while it seems like, sometimes the story is not stitching together, um, yeah, absolutely. I think long term it does pay off. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
difficult one, but yeah.
So, since we have Amol, who is from AI, and we all use AI, so I wanted to check. And I mean, please feel free to give your thoughts on usage of AI in the application. When did you submit your consultant a draft written by AI, and when did he or her sniff it through and say that this will not work? And yeah, so your thoughts on AI, Rishi? I can see you smile, so please go ahead.
No, so that used to happen a lot of times with me. What I used to do is I used to put all my thoughts on my chat GPT or Claude, and then just ask it to like frame everything in 500 words. But then it would skip the main parts of the essays and then add some fluff to it, which would not genuinely work, and it would also kill the authenticity of the essay,
Yeah.
which we discussed just earlier. So I think that was something which was not working, and then I realized LBS. So LBS is one of the schools I got into. LBS essays all I wrote by myself, not using any AI help, and I realized I was doing a much better job, and my back and forth with the consultant was also much lesser, and I was able to close the essays quickly only instead of using the AI. I was able to close the essays quickly. So I think yeah, you should use AI, but only to like amplify your thoughts, think better on why you did something instead of simply just putting it into it and writing through it. So that's what I realized about using AI on my essays.
Right. And Ashia, what are your thoughts?
No, I think I second that. Absolutely. I think there were drafts where you just feel like, okay, for the brevity of time or whatever, just dump all your thoughts into a thread and let it generate something. Of course, it helps with professional emails and all, not so much with
Yeah.
college drafts. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think it generates something. I just don't think it's your own voice. Absolutely use it by all means to fine tune, to cut a few words here and there, to stitch sentences better. I mean, by all means. But I think absolutely helps to take the first few stabs of the draft on your own and have your consultant take the second, third passes. And then, yeah, like if you need to cut it down from like 575 to like 500 words, by all means, use it. But don't like give it a draft of like 1200 words and be like, okay, shrink it, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
just think
Not gonna
it
work.
will, of course, lose the essence. It also, by all means, I don't know how much you can train the models, but no matter what you do, I think no matter like you only know what you really want to portray, right? And your essays and your unique voice. So something or the other gets lost. But absolutely, I mean, it's 2026, right? Everyone is using it in some capacity or the other. Like use it to reduce the volume, but not to like, really generate something from scratch, I would say. Yeah. That's
Yeah. And Amol, your thoughts on AI?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with what Rishi and Arshia have said. And how to use AI in application is in a way a skill. Actually, it made me better at using AI in general, like for just
Oh, wow.
normal use.
Totally
Because
agree to that.
yeah, I mean it's very easy to just like Rishi and Arshia both mentioned, just give your thoughts, give those 2,000 words items, and just you create some essay basis this topic, and it just adds fluff. It's not at all you. It not just adds that fluff. It also confuses you. So that's more of a problem because you yourself get lost in what story you want to portray and what that AI is telling you. So it just jumbles everything up, and whatever you come up with is just not very constructive. And it takes some time to get past that as well. Just
Yeah.
you know keeping everything aside, I don't know what that AI said and starting from scratch and then giving something genuine. And similarly, even for me, for LBS, it was completely my thoughts and something which I sat with myself and I was like, "Ki, no AI, just have something ready, create that 500, 600 word essay, and then maybe try to trim around the edges. Maybe ask it to, uh, uh, you know, just see what is extraneous, something that you don't may not need to add, and then make a decision yourself. So how you use it is not to and maybe initially to brainstorm a few things. That's okay to think of some ideas, but to draft an essay, definitely not. Only to refine it, or if you're not that great at writing, if you want to just see how it's written, just get some advice on that. So that's how I personally used it, and it's helped me to use AI in general, for general use much better. Just does a
Right.
lot for that.
Right. So we have another 15 minutes and we have a few sections to cover. And I can also see some comments on the comment box. So, some questions on the comment box. So we'll move to the next section, which is on interviews. Rishi, what surprised you most during your INSEAD interview?
Yeah, Gunjan. So I had two interviews with INSEAD alums only. One of them was online, and she asked me a lot of questions, grilled me a lot for 2 hours, asked me very like deeper questions as well. So that was fine. The other interview was a physical interview with a 20-year-old alumni from INSEAD, and
Wow.
yeah, he didn't ask me any questions. He was like, "You ask me questions. What you want to know about INSEAD?" It was very conversational, and I don't know. He had some weird ways of testing me. He was saying all the problematic things and just wanted to note my reaction on his questions. So, yeah, interviews can have sometimes very interesting ways of judging you. So, yeah, the conversation was like it went from like from anywhere till anywhere. Like it went from recruiting opportunities after INSEAD to taking pav bhaji masala with me from India to like treat all my friends around there at INSEAD. So these interviews are very conversational. They just want to get to know you and whether you are a perfect fit for the culture at both of these schools actually. So I think, yeah, you just need to be yourself and be very authentic when you are sitting with the interviewer, and yeah, be confident about what you have been believing in so far. And see, already getting accepted for an interview is soft acceptance from the school. So the interviewer is just trying to know you and understanding if you are the right fit for the school or not. So if you be authentic and confident, then it works out in the end.
Right. And Amol, if you could throw some light on your interview experience with LBS.
Yeah, sure. So at LBS, you only have one interview, and it's by the alumni. I had heard that a lot of LBS interviews are quite conversational and they try to ease you in. But for me, it was a bit different. It was quite structured. It was quite question and answer type. And during my mock interview, so I've had a couple of mock interviews with my friends or peers, and one with Red Pen alumni, LBS alumni themselves. Uh, so with that, it actually helped me a lot because I was not very much aware of what to expect in an interview. Like while you hear a lot of people, but when you're in that situation, you tend to think about things you might not have. So after those mock interviews, I actually started preparing properly for an interview, and just started thinking of many scenarios what I could think of impromptu, because while you do need to be genuine, you have to be careful about what and how you say, especially when it's a very targeted Q&A type. So I was like, just worst case scenario, if it's not conversational, I should try to prepare something which works for me, or which would portray my story, because it's the important thing is you need to portray who you are and what you have written in the application. You're the same people, how well you articulate yourself, and a few other things, right? So for me, that I kind of over prepared, but it did help me, because if I didn't, then I would have been caught a bit off guard because of what I was expecting. So that's what kind of helped me.
Right. So we are running slightly short of time. Arshia will just jump quickly to the questions, and if time permits, I really want to know how was the different. You've interviewed with different schools, so how was the experience? But let's just take the questions, and then if time permits, we'll just go to that. Now, I can see a couple of questions here. Can you help elaborate on what would be considered safe scores to apply for INSEAD and LBS in the GMAT? Guys, any of you, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Rishi, if you the
so
one
I'll
only.
quickly answer that question. Yeah.
Yeah.
So GMAT score is a very important aspect for US schools. For INSEAD and LBS, your overall profile matters a lot. So I know someone with a 615 GMAT who has got into INSEAD, and someone with a 715 who got rejected. So GMAT score is just one of the aspects. You can apply even with a 615 if you think your profile is comprehensive enough for the school.
Great. Please discuss on scholarship opportunities. So, scholarship opportunities, I would just like to say that it really depends on your application, and a lot of these programs they voluntarily offer scholarships. There are two types of scholarships: there is merit-based and there is need-based scholarship. So, it really depends on your application, and for a lot of these programs, sometimes you are considered for scholarship by default, so you don't necessarily are writing. I mean, so it depends from on which college you're applying and whether they have a separate scholarship essay or not. Um Right. How did you go about initially about your application vis-a-vis the GMAT versus the application process itself? Harshia Kumar, if you could please clarify the question, how did you initially go about your application vis-a-vis the GMAT, vis-a-vis the application process itself? All right, so we'll move to the next question because I'm not very clear on what they're trying to ask here. How did you offset your career gap during the MBA application process? Arshia, this question is directed towards you. How did you offset your career gap during the MBA application process?
Sure. So offset career gap, more like just taking time away from the, the professional career itself, right? Like taking a career break for the MBA.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, like I started one of the answers with this. I think there's just never a good time to stop being part of the professional force, stop earning, all of those things. You just need to know when's a good time that you need to build on a couple of skills, whether that's to expand your network, whether that's to change your geographies. For me, that was one. I mean, I wanted to explore globally where else I could be. Middle East is a target, London would be a target. So those kind of things, I think you just figure out when's a good time to do that. It could be next year as well. There's nothing wrong with going with 5 years of experience. It was more just like, let me apply with 4 years, see how the, admits and all come. If I get a good admit, I'll go this year. If not, then perhaps next year. But I guess it's just a very personal decision in that aspect. You just need to know when you would be ready to take that leap of faith, whether that's like changing your career streams, whether that's more like changing geographies, making that financial investment, right? I mean, it's a big no matter where you're going, it's a big investment. So those kind of things. So yeah, I think just a lot of reflection required on that front as well.
Right. And thank you for answering that, Arshia. And just in case, Adam, you were trying to ask that how do you offset your career gap during the MBA application process? Arshia did not have a career gap per se while she was applying. Arshia, you have, ever since you completed your education, you were constantly employed somewhere, right, while you were applying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
but
I will have about, just a little more than 4 years by the time I end up
So,
going through my
so just in case your question is how do you offset your career gap in the application? So you can get in touch with us at the Red Pen, and we can do a free profile evaluation and understand what is the career gap, and then we can take the question forward from there. How do you see recruitment and placements, etc., in the EU market currently? As per online sources, things seem to be quite brutal. Are there opportunities for international students from India? Would love to hear your thoughts. In fact, all of you, it would help the audience a lot.
Gunjan, so I did some research into this matter, and it's more of a noise than fact. Honestly, if you're intentional enough, if you know what you want to do, which country, which company you want to get placed in, then there are enough opportunities for Indians. What's happening is in both of these schools, LBS and INSEAD, most Indians are actually looking towards Middle East placements because of various reasons, like the pay is better or the taxes are lower. So hence you see more Indians getting into Middle East, but there are equally good number of people getting into the EU market as well.
Right.
Arshia, yeah.
Yeah. Arshia, if you could let us know, how did you make this call?
Yeah. So one thing I think that really mattered to me in this decision making was Middle East, of course, just by proximity, is so much closer to India than the US, or of course Singapore would be a comparison. It's fairly close by. Of course, taxation on your income is a big one. There's barely any taxes, so you take back a lot of what you make. I think those, not so small, but like those factors really played into my decision making. I also connected with a lot of alumni at London Business School and also NCR, but primarily London Business School, who've recruited into the Middle East, and just had a very candid conversation with them. How easy is recruitment? How's it going? How early in the process do you actually start with recruiting into the Middle East, and how is it looking? So got some insights from there. Of course, everyone's journey is very tailored to where it is you want to recruit into. Consulting would be different, PVC would be different, banking sector would be different, but at least you get some some benchmark of when it is that you want to start. So I think like my a little bit of advice would just be like absolutely connect with current students or just recent alumni, because geopolitical situation is changing so rapidly. Each year really makes a difference. So just good to connect with recent alumni to understand how was the process for them, and if you wish to have a similar trajectory, how would it look like for you?
Right. Amol, how did you take that decision?
Yeah, so I do agree with Arshia and Rishi too, but if you look at uh, your job as or your MBA as building or a starting point for building a career, I think your decision becomes a bit easier because you're not looking for a job after your MBA. You're looking to build a career, and you're planning that throughout your MBA process or even before during applying for that. And if you just keep everything aside and just focus more on that, and then add the nuances of geolocation, geography, and all these other things, it becomes an easier choice to decide on what you want to do. So for me, it was more towards figuring that out as to what do I want to do, and which place is doing that better. So and what skills do I need to build? Of course, there's a lot of learning that will happen throughout the MBA, and maybe my thoughts would change, but that underlying fact would still remain about building a career and not just looking for a job for instant ROI. And if you make that decision based on that, it becomes a much more nuanced decision that you're making, rather than just, okay, after my MBA, I'm looking for a consulting job and I want a salary which would offset my fees, MBA fees, and I'll just earn more in 3 years.
Right. Very interesting perspective, Amol, there. I always believe that an MBA should never be just calculated basis ROI. It should also be looked at from an ROC, which is return on career. And the kind of risk, the kind of opportunities, the kind of industry switches that an MBA degree can provide still remains. And it should not just be purely looked from whether I would get a job now and I'll be able to pay up the fees in the next 3 years. So it was great chatting with all of you today. And I hope that the audience has gotten some great insights speaking to all three of you and coming from different backgrounds. So thank you so much, Amol, Rishi, Arshia, for your time. We are truly obliged. And for anybody who's watching there, if you have any questions on your profile or you want to get your profile evaluated, please feel free to reach out to us at the Red Pen. And there is the number as well as the website given in the link below. So please click on that and reach out to us. All the very best to all three of you. Wishing you a great career and a great life ahead. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye, everyone.